Network.
And welcome to the Monday edition of the Lombardi Line. I am Dave Ross here at Circus Sports, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. He is back home in New Jersey. Our GM, Michael Lombardi. Got a great show, Michael. Going to have Rich Ganon, our NFL MVP, join the program. Carl Johnson, hour 2 down there, Beau Rivage. But, you know, I love what the NFL does, Michael, on this Veterans Day. They do the salute, the service, and I love that they do that across the league. And you see everybody rocking these as the games have gone on this weekend. What do you make of that? Because I love what they do for cancer awareness in October with the pink ribbons. I get on the NFL a lot, Michael, but they do some really good things, and I think this is one of the better ones they do.
Well, anytime you can honor veterans, it's certainly one of the greatest things we can do as a country, because without it being Veterans Day, without their service, without their sacrifice, we wouldn't be able to share into the freedom that we do have. So I think it's a tremendous endeavor by the National Football League to do that. And I love all the camouflaged uniforms the coaches wear on the sideline. And you know, it was a strange weekend, David, of football. I mean, there was some really bad games. The 4 o'clock window I thought was a disaster here. Your 1 o'clock window, there wasn't a good game in that. No disrespect to your Cowboys, but wow, how bad must Trey Lance be if Cooper Rush is the starting quarterback? Seriously.
Great point.
Right?
Yeah, I looked at that, Michael, and I thought what you thought, and we've talked about it on the program before. Like, that's a wasted 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. You know, like what I said to you, they're going to kick the tires on him. You're like, the car's not running. I mean, it just looks like with Dak out for the year, and it'll be made official. You and I talked about it on the program on Friday. There's no hope in Dallas, right? This thing is done.
No hope. No hope. And, you know, let's not read too much into the Eagles, because we know the Cowboys couldn't score, but the Eagles are playing much better.
They are.
Then, you know, last night, I mean, look, when you turn the ball over 5 times and you still win the game, what does that tell you about your team?
They have some determination about those Detroit Lions getting that win. The last second field goal, 52-yarder as time expires, to beat the Texans 26-23. They're down, 23-7 at the break. And, Michael,
right.
you laid it out perfectly. What does it tell you about their team? To me, it tells me they've got a determination about them that comes from their head coach, that they believe we're still the bully in the schoolyard, and we're going to beat you up eventually. And I felt like Houston deer in headlights a little bit in the second half, Michael. No points in the second half. Lions come all the way back. They don't have the best record in the NFL, but I think you can make a case they are the best team.
No, they're hard to beat. When someone throws 5 interceptions and you still lose the game and you still win the game.
Wow.
I mean, there's no reason for that. And then to be able to hold them back in the second half without scoring any points. Look, I know that Stroud threw 2 picks himself. He wasn't exactly great. But this Texan team, I think, is a little bit of a mirage. I really do. And I think this game kind of highlights it. When you win the turnover battle as much as they do, this offensive line quite isn't good enough here in Houston. And, you know, they were fortunate. They were fortunate to beat Buffalo early in the season. You know, I think they're trending in the wrong way. Now, maybe if they get Nico Collins back, everybody thought he was going to play. You know, to me, if you took the Lions and the 3.5, you were on the right side, because the Lions, without the interception, should have easily covered this game. And yet it became a little bit where you lost. If you got the 3, you pushed. If you got the 3.5, you lost. So it's one of those. But to me, I think it just tells you how resilient these Lions are. They're the only team that practiced on Election Day last week.
Yeah,
they want to win. They're completely locked in on this.
Well, and that's fascinating that they were the only team that decided that they wanted to work. That's the head coach, that's the GM, you know, Brad Holmes. These guys, they've got eyes on the prize here. And by the way, you see the under cashed at 49.5, depending on where you get that number. We always talk about it here on VSiN across the network. That's depending on which side you wanted to go over or under. It really did come into play here. As the changing numbers went as the week went on. You saw also the side moved as well. If you got up to that 4.5, you were safely in that range. But, you know, Michael, when you throw 5 picks, as you alluded to with Jared Goff, he was 7-1 to win the MVP. He drifts to 13-1 in the marketplace here. I don't want to say that it's over for Goff in the MVP, because there's still a lot of football, but that visual, right, on a Sunday night, that's going to be hard to get out of the voters' mentality bank.
I think 2 things happened over the weekend. I think Jalen Milroe could become the Heisman Trophy winner with that performance against LSU. It was spectacular. It was amazing. and I think Goff lost the MVP last night. I think those two things on Saturday and Sunday have changed the mind, right? I think there's no way Goff, he went up to, he was 12-1 last week, he 13-1. Same with Jaden Daniels. I think those things, I think Jalen Hurts will increase. But look, the two best, Lamar Jackson, I thought Mike Tomlin said it best when they were trying to compare Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson. He said, hey, look, that's a two-time MVP. That's Mr. Jackson. Don't be comparing anybody to him. And he's right?
Yes.
I think that's right. So ultimately, you can lose it in Week 10. You can certainly win it or enhance yourself. Detroit's obviously what we saw from Detroit is a team effort, that they were really good at what they were able to find ways to win. And you got to give them credit for that. Really, you have to.
18-1, by the way, for Jalen Milroe. Still here is a 6 betting choice to win the Heisman Trophy. Kind of like that number after that performance, because you're right. Those things get etched in your mind a little bit after what you saw over the weekend. Let's go to the Commanders here, and they lose a tough one at home to the Steelers. And I saw this morning, Michael, that I believe the Steelers, their odds to win the North are still sitting about 8%, although they're in first place, if we can believe this here, as we stand after Week 10. And they get that 28-27 win. Russell Wilson, whatever we all thought of Russ and whether or not he was done, clearly it feels like Mike Tomlin knew his football team better than the media and made the right choice at quarterback there. A late play to Zach Ertz. Did he get the first down? Did he not on a fourth down? They marked him short, and the Steelers get the Commanders to jump off sides and a fourth and short to salt this one away. What do you make of the Steelers? Because I still feel like the betting market doesn't take them, shall we say, seriously.
Well, I mean, that throw that Russell made to Mike Williams for the go-ahead touchdown was vintage Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. That was as good a deep throw as I've seen him make in 3 years. I mean, it was really remarkable. It was outstanding. And look, we know this. They were able to they hung around in the game. They got the lead. They gave back up. I think to me, they're just a resilient, tough-minded team, and I don't think you could ever count the Steelers out of any game. They like to play ugly. They do, and they win ugly. Let's face it. They know how to win ugly. They know what they're doing, and they're well coached. I mean, look, I think the other thing that's pretty clear in the National Football League is you can we say this all the time. You can overpay for mediocre players. That kills you. You can never overpay for great players. You can never overpay for a great coach. Just think about, look at the order of teams here as you go through it, right? Look at Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, right? All legitimate. Baltimore, the Chargers, John Harbaugh, Sean Payton. That's great coaching, right? And we see the same thing. We see it the same way. I mean, to me, that's where you could never not overpay for that. Jim Harbaugh's out there. The Raiders don't want to go for him. They keep Antonio Pierce. Next thing you know, he's at the Chargers. They got 6 wins already with a team that nobody thought was going to get to 8 wins. I mean, they're under total. I think coaching really matters, and I think we see it with Tomlin. People want to look on the paper and say they don't have a good team, but like you just pointed out, David, he made the decision to go to Russell Wilson. He knows what he had in Justin Fields. It wasn't good enough. He wasn't buying the media, Meanwhile, the Jets are sitting here 3-7. Where's their coaching? Right?
It totally matters.
They think it's all players. That's what everybody thinks. It's just we're going to get more players. Jacksonville, they got a lot of players. They're 2-8. I mean, the Raiders are 2-7. I mean, you have to pay for a great coach if you can get it. The fact that Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick aren't working.
Oh, boy.
And then you look at this list of teams, it's ridiculous.
I don't think those guys will be out of work, to your point. If they don't want to be out of work this time next year, I'd be stunned if that happens when you see some of the bad coaching jobs being done around the league. I mentioned that about the Steelers and their chances of winning the division. You go, well, how is that possible? When you look at them at 7-2 and they're sitting in first place with the Ravens at 7-3, they've got a big game coming up. And by the way, the Ravens are 3-point favorites in Pittsburgh next week, despite being a half game behind. The Steelers' schedule, Michael, and here's the thing. Media type's going to look at it and go, they've got no chance, because it is brutal, right? They've got all their division games still to play. Obviously, the 2 with the Ravens, 2 with the Bengals, 2 with the Browns. They've got games against the Eagles, against the Chiefs, who are still undefeated. So it looks so daunting. But you mentioned Tomlin. That doesn't faze him, right? Like, his message to his team is so different from what the outside message is going to be.
It's all about one game at a time, right? He's just taking it, and he's going to play that game differently, right? He's going to play that game whatever it's going to take to win that game on that day. He's not trying to go in there and say we're going to throw for. He's not looking for stats. You know, he's not looking to go for it like Shane Steichen did on 4th down in a ridiculous play with, you know, and then lose the game to Buffalo. He's not looking to do that. He's looking to do the things that'll help him win that game on that specific day. And I think you got to give him credit for that. I really do.
By the way, that the over does cash in D.C., and if you had the Steelers either plus the points or money line, obviously you win those games outright. We're going to talk a lot more about the Chiefs, Michael, but they do stay undefeated somehow, some way. Even in defeat, I was so impressed with what the Broncos are doing, even in that 16-14 defeat. But talking about figuring out ways to win a game, you get a special teams play here to block the potential game-winning field goal at the gun.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And the Chiefs just figure out a way, right?
I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, they've 7 of their 10 wins have been in one-score games.
Unbelievable.
They just find a way. But here's the thing that's concerning. When you start going through it, right, Caleb Williams isn't getting better. Bo Nix is. Drake May's getting better. Caleb Williams isn't. Right? Jaden Daniels has been good all year, but Caleb Williams isn't. Now, I've said this till nauseum. The problem with Chicago was they have no toughness. Ryan Poles built a team that he had no idea he was playing on Lake Michigan. Like, he had no idea. Like, there's no physicality to that team. Matt Eberflus knows he's going to get fired for it because the team was built the wrong way. And no one's questioning Poles should keep his job or not. To me, it's ridiculous.
And look at the toughness from Brad Holmes and that football team with Dan Campbell in the same division. Great point. We'll get to all of that, so much more in this Veterans Day edition here on the Lombardi Line.
It's a good.
Coming up Monday on Follow the Money, we recap a great weekend, NFL and college. We preview Monday Night Football and also visit with Nick Bogdanovich on the World Openers at Circa and College. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter. This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We continue the Veterans Day edition of the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi. And going to have Rich Ganon join us here, our MVP, former NFL quarterback, join us in the next segment. Michael, I always say how much I look forward to these conversations, especially on a Monday on the Lombardi Line. You mentioned the Bears, and I'm watching that thing, and I got teasers tied up with Chicago. And Michael, I said, what an idiot I am. I'm thinking this team could find a way to beat the Patriots. No, they lose 19-3. And I think the bigger takeaway is you got chance of fire flus from the Bears fans there. And you mentioned it in the last segment. Caleb Williams. This is the number one pick in the draft. This is a guy that was talking about I need an ownership stake, whatever team I might go to. I mean, it doesn't look good, Michael. What's your takeaway after watching that debacle against the Patriots?
Well, we've been saying it all year. He has had a really hard time throwing the ball down the field. And this isn't the college game. You can't make the plays you made in college. He's been very good on the move, making plays, but offensively, he's taken a lot of heat. He was sacked 9 times yesterday. The most the Patriots have sacked anybody in since forever, right? And so he's got sacked. They have no running game. They have nickel running backs on their team. Why has Swift been on 3 teams? Why has he been on 3 teams? Detroit replaced him with Gibbs. Philadelphia replaced him with Barkley, and Chicago couldn't wait to pay him. Something's wrong here. Right? And so Keenan Allen, pay him $20-some million a year. You get 5 catches, 44 yards. Like, if I'm going to pay a receiver, that I want somebody going to put the ball in the end zone. I'm not going to pay a possession receiver. Then they draft Rome Odunze. They don't draft an offensive lineman. They can't block anybody. I've been saying it all year. I don't understand what the big problem is. Their offensive line's atrocious. I don't care what Pro Football Focus gives them for grades every week. They don't block anybody. And this New England front, that's the strength of their team.
Boy, that's
is that.
And a great point about the draft. Look, I hope Rome Odunze is an excellent receiver for years to come, but boy, if not saying they missed on Caleb, we'll find out what he turns out to be. But then you don't get him any help up front, and he's running for his life. It's hard to look like some of these other rookie quarterbacks that are having success, Michael. And I don't want to say that it's all on the draft or go that route, but you are seeing success from Bo Nix. You are seeing success from Drake May. You're seeing a ton of it in D.C. with Jaden Daniels, right? They're not giving Caleb Williams the best opportunity to look like what they thought he was going to look like.
They don't have a player development program for him because they have nothing. Like, you draft a young quarterback, I don't care. You're saying to yourself, okay, what kind of team do we want to be? We play in Chicago. We typically have 15-mile-an-hour winds for most games. We got to be really physical up in the line. We watched Detroit play with a quarterback that we all acknowledge, has had moments of great play and moments of bad play in Jared Goff, right? But when he's really good, he's protected, right? But you're not very good in the offensive line. You can't protect them. And you have this 3-receiver set that you're trying to run, which makes no sense at all because you're putting the burden of responsibility. We're not playing Madden. We're not playing a Madden game. That's what the Bears front office has done. They're playing Madden. And you can't win football games like that. When you go against a rugged team like New England, who has got some physicality up front, they're big, they're strong. 9 sacks? I mean, come on, Dave. Oof. I mean, it's not fair, and you're not seeing any progression of quality of play from Caleb because there's no development. There's nobody who, from the front office to the coaching staff, has said, okay, how do we get the most out of this player? What kind of team do we need to build around him? They knew they were drafting Caleb Williams way back in before their free agency started. But, of course, naturally they take a nickel running back, no power. They have no offensive line with any power. They're going to be in a 3-receiver set. They paid them all. I mean, they paid Kmet. They paid everybody. But they can't run the football. Meanwhile, these other teams, the Chargers, are playing with a lesser team and running the football, controlling the pace of the game. I'm not saying, look, running doesn't make you win games. It doesn't. But what it does, it brings you a sense of physicality to your team. I mean, this guy's been sacked 38 times. David Carr was sacked 49. Tim Couch was sacked 35. It ruined their years. It was the most sacks taken by a player in a game this year. And to me, this is 2 weeks in a row they failed to score a touchdown. Think about that. 2 weeks in a row.
1 of 14 on third downs.
23 possessions, Dave. They haven't scored a touchdown.
142 total yards, Michael, in this loss to the Patriots. And by the way, Circa Survivor here, they took some hits with this weekend, down to 105 entries now with the Giants, Bears, and Falcons all losing there. And you see that the Bears, 14 entries go by the wayside, 30 go by in Munich. And very quickly,
imagine turning the Giants. The Giants had no. I wrote it on Friday in my column. I said, "How are the Giants they should be 6.5 point favorite against Oregon?" I mean, that was horrendous.
We were kidding about it.
Look, they missed a field goal. Mm-hmm. They turned the ball over twice in the red zone. I mean, it's one of those where it's a little bit like I said earlier about the Lions not covering the 3.5. It was the right side. But you can't trust Daniel Jones.
No,
I mean you really can't.
Look, and I've tried to be. I don't want to say an apologist for Daniel Jones, but I try to defend him a little bit. Michael, I'm all out of the defense. The defense is rested.
You can't defend him.
You can't defend him.
He's a great kid. You just can't defend him. I mean, look,
that was
you
awful.
Can't defend the fact that he can't get the ball down the field.
No.
He's got 37 attempts for 190 yards. 37 attempts for 190 yards, right? I mean, and, they fumbled. The running back fumbled again. They turned it over, got 2 interceptions plus the fumble. It's all Carolina needed. I mean, I thought Carolina throwing that pass on third down where Chuba Hubbard dropped it.
Yes, what
might have been the
there?
right call if they would have executed. That was horrendous. I thought that was a bad decision by Dave Canales. Mm-hmm. But look, I mean, the Giants defense gave up 306 yards to Bryce Young. They couldn't stop the running game. Do you remember on Hard Knocks this summer where they came in and they said, show me the stats for Tennessee's run defense? Okay, let's hire him. Have they gotten any better?
Look, Germany, we said we were going to apologize in advance for having to watch that quarterback play.
They loved it, though.
They did. They had a blast, right? And we got up and watched.
You have to explain to me, why are they so happy to sing West Virginia? I mean, these people don't know. I mean,
John
West
Denver.
Virginia and Munich.
Yeah, did you ever think
Is it John Denver?
Yeah, did we think that would be the pairing that we would? But they love singing. And by the way, my mom, I know she's watching, Country Roads. It's one of our favorite songs. We like to sing it at full blast. I didn't know it would be that big in Germany, but they love it in Germany, Michael.
Who could have predicted it, David? I mean, who could have? I mean, seriously. I mean, I listened to it though. It was cheered me up. I mean, it was like, oh my God, these people are singing "Take Me Home, Country Road, West Virginia." I get the Sweet Caroline. I got that one. Okay, everybody loves that song, but I mean, seriously. But there is nothing better. Those German fans love it. And by the way, how good did those pretzels look over there? Seriously, you just want to go to Munich and get a pretzel, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I say that I kid all the time about, we go over there, we play in England, we play in Germany and all these things. And I always, kid on it. I get up early in the morning and watch it to America. And then I go, you know what? This is cool that they're enjoying our game, which is our new national pastime. So I'm happy. So as much as grief as I give the league for doing all these things, it actually seems pretty darn cool, and I want one of those pretzels. By the way, Michael, got to point out everybody out there, if you have not gotten the VSiN app, it's really cool. I know we're homers, we're on the network and all those things, but you haven't checked out the app yet. It really is pretty awesome. You can get it Apple app or Google Play Store. You can download it now. You're going to get 24/7 access to our live audio and video stream. You watch replays of your favorite show like the Lombardi Line. Easily stream video on your smart TV. You can browse clips by sport. You can use the search feature to find the specific VSiN expert insights that you're interested in. So check it out. Visit the Apple or Google App Store now. Download it and become part of the sports betting network. So that wraps up what we saw in Munich. I want to give you a shout out too, because on the smooth bet of the week last week, you gave out the Saints, and you said you liked the kind of the interim head coach, and hey, it all came to fruition. You didn't even need the points, Michael. They win the game outright, 20-17 against the ATL. And I thought, boy, that Lombardi knows what he's talking about. What'd you make of that? Because they did.
That
look
was an ugly game too.
But they looked. But
you
better.
could feel the energy with Darren Rizzi. You could feel the energy with him. He was really into it, and I think to me, the team responded. And look, let's be clear here: this Falcon team is not very good on defense.
Right.
Like I don't care how much they're 6-4. I mean, they're going to be a one and done team. Kirk Cousins was under pressure yesterday. Credit the Saints. I mean, you could just feel it, right? It's going to be an interesting week this week, Dave. I know we got a minute to go here, but will the Giants make a move on Daboll? They're 2-8. The Giants have to ask themselves the question: do we keep playing Daniel Jones and risk him getting injured and be stuck for $25 million next year because he hurt? Oof. That's a real fair question. Are we going to see Tommy DeVito in week 10? Week 11 when they come back, or week 12 when they come back, right? It's over with for Doug Peterson down in Jacksonville. The owner can't come out this summer and say, oh, my, here we are. We're going to be really good, and next thing you know, you're 2-8. And he was testy with the media yesterday. So there's 11 teams that have no chance. It's going to be a fascinating second half of the season, and they're going to do a lot of juggling on these teams. I mean, we have Houston-Dallas next Monday night.
Oh, boy. Don't need to see that, America, but we are going to see it.
Nobody
and we will
needs
watch
to see that.
When we come back, Rich Gannon's going to join the program. We'll get his Monday morning analysis as well. Come on back. It is the Lombardi Line.
And they're off.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Continuing the Lombardi Line here on this Monday, one game to go here for Week 10 of the NFL. The Dolphins and Rams tonight. Who better, Michael, than on a Monday than to bring back to the program? Rich Ganon does a great job on the network as our NFL analyst. Of course, won an MVP as a quarterback in this league, knows it at the highest level. Joins us on the Progressive Guest Line. Rich, great to have you in on a Monday. Michael and I were just talking about how it seems like over in Munich and maybe over in Europe in general, how much they like our game, even when we give them Daniel Jones and Bryce Young. What do you make of this experiment of kind of the USA taking our new national game abroad? It seems to be working.
Well, listen, the owners aren't dumb. They know how to make money. They want to grow this game not only in our country, but internationally. And I think I've been a part of a lot of those games as a player, mostly in the preseason. I've been to a lot of different countries. And, of course, I've had the opportunity to call some games for CBS. So I think, look, the European fans love what we're doing. I think the expansion into Germany has been terrific. I wish we could give them some better football. Of course, yesterday was a real clunker. You know, two bad teams, two bad quarterbacks, two bad coaches, two bad play callers. I mean, it is what it is. But we gave them overtime. It's opportunity to go to the concession stand and drink more beer and put their jerseys on. Look, European fans love our game, which is awesome.
It really is, Rich. It's tremendous. And you mentioned coaching. How about the job Jim Harbaugh's doing with the Chargers? I mean, Justin Herbert only has to throw it 18 times. He's got 14 completions. He just manages the game, takes the game, knows when to kind of put the pressure on the defense, and they come away with a convincing 27-17 win, and it wasn't even that close.
Tennessee, as you know, Michael, the one thing they can do is play defense. They've got all kind of issues offensively, but they can play defense. So that wasn't going to be easy for them yesterday. And I agree with you. You know, you talk a lot about, you know, changing the culture environment, bringing it, how important coaching is. You think about Jim Harbaugh, and you and I had the opportunity to work alongside Jim in Oakland. I mean, he gets it. His dad was a coach. His brother's a coach. He understands the basic principles of building a winning program. And I think you're starting to see that in Los Angeles, which is saying something because the guy before him kind of ran it into the ground. You've got a great quarterback. Yep. They've reeled him in a little bit. He's taken much better care of the football. I think he's gone 7 games this year where he hasn't thrown an interception. They're running the football. They're playing a certain style of football, a certain brand. It's physical toughness. And their defense has been the best scoring defense in the NFL. Keep an eye on the Chargers here in the second half of the season.
Already 6 wins for this unit. They do cover the number here. Big number, 8.5 is where it closed. They win by 10 over the Titans yesterday. Michael and I talked about it a little bit, Rich. I can't wait to get your perspective on it, too, because it's not that Drake May went in there and beat Caleb Williams. But, boy, that's got to be a little disconcerting when you're looking at the number 1 overall pick and you lose at home badly and your offense can't get going. Obviously, they feel good about Jaden Daniels in D.C., when you look at the rookie quarterback class, what would the advice be to Caleb Williams right now going through this struggle session as he is?
Well, we've seen some that have done a really nice job and have played well. And I think you look at even Drake May. I mean, they don't have an offensive line and they don't have any receivers, and yet this kid still goes out. And I think, you know, you can see the steady improvement with him. I think you look at Jaden Daniels and what's happened in Washington. They didn't win yesterday, but you know he's off to a really solid start. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, didn't get off to a good start. Settled in, played pretty good for 3 or 4 games, and then has fallen off the wagon and has struggled here the last couple of weeks. They've lost 3 straight. You know, he threw the ball 30 times, guys, for 120 yards yesterday. He's been sacked 15 times over the last 2 games, and no quarterback has been sacked more in the league this year, 38 times. Why is he being sacked so much? Couple things. He doesn't understand protections. He's got a tendency to hold the football. He holds the football more than any quarterback in the league right now. Because why? Things are going so fast, he can't get him to slow down. And he's not processing like he should. And sometimes, you know, you look at who's calling plays, who's coaching the position, who's developing the position. And I don't know Shane Waldron all that well, but I look at some of the things they're doing structurally, and I scratch my head. So they've got to figure out a way to get this guy back to playing with some confidence, back to getting rid of the football, not holding it. But 3 straight losses, Matt Eberflus is in trouble, guys, in Chicago.
No question. I mean, how about down in Jacksonville? Mac Jones comes in at the 4th lowest scoring output in Jacksonville history, which is saying something. Yesterday, I mean, Minnesota was trying to give the game away. Sam Darnold reverted back to the Sam Darnold that we remember, but yet they still couldn't take advantage of that game. I mean, we saw Goff throw 5 interceptions. I mean, it was a weird weekend, Rich, in the sense that quarterbacks turned the ball over and their team still won.
Michael, here's the interesting thing. I think you could bring in Joe Namath. You could bring in Roger Staubach. You could bring in Peyton Manning. I don't know if that Jacksonville situation will be all that much better. It's just it's a wreck right now. But on the other side of it, you look at Sam Darnold, and he's back to being Sam Darnold. 3 interceptions yesterday, a season high 2 last week. Some of the decision making is cause for concern, I'm sure, for Kevin O'Connell. Here's the difference, though. You look at that game last night, and Jared Goff was an MVP candidate coming in. That won't be the case anymore because on a primetime game, he throws 5 interceptions. But I always say the eyes are a window to the person's soul. And if you watched him during the game, there was no sense of panic. You look at the head coach, Dan Campbell, nobody was panicking. No one was throwing their helmets. No one was having a meltdown on the sidelines. This team knew that despite the fact that he wasn't playing well, they weren't playing well, that they could come from behind and win that game. Think about what happened in the second half. I mean, that was incredible. They came back and played some great football. They were 19. They were outscored the Texans 19-0 in the second half. He settled in a little bit. The kicker makes 2 big kicks, one from 58 and one from 52 at the end of the game. But that says a lot about that team and that quarterback. The ability to get punched in the mouth, have a really ugly half, and come back and play a lot better in the second half.
Rich, another quarterback that's been punched in the mouth, and maybe more so by social media than anybody else, is Russell Wilson. And it feels like that guy's gotten off the deck, and you know what it's like to sometimes say, oh, this guy's done. His best football is behind him. Then you go win an MVP, right? So, like, when you see this from a guy like Russ, can he get back to elite Russ level? Is he starting to approach that again?
I don't know how much of an upside there is with Russell Wilson at this point in his career. I think what you see is what you get, which is good, right? I mean, he's playing some good football. I think they're averaging over 30 points a game since he's taken over as the quarterback in Pittsburgh. I think he's got a really good supporting cast. They can run the ball, although they didn't do it yesterday with Najee Harris and Warren. They've got some playmakers on the perimeter, and they've got the best defense in football. I mean, that's a defense that can really be disruptive. And we saw that yesterday. Jaden Daniels yesterday, he was responsible for 207 yards. He rushed for 5 yards in that game. And I said going in, they've got to be able to set the edge, force this kid to sit in the pocket and function as a pocket passer and not give up the explosives. I just think that's a really well-coached team. Michael talks about it all the time, the job that Mike Tomlin does. And I think that's a really ideal situation for Russell Wilson.
You talk about really a well-coached team. The Denver Broncos and Bo Nix have improved, Rich. I mean, they didn't score in the second half, which ultimately cost them. They get the field goal blocked at the end of the game, which cost them. But they played as well as you could play. Bo Nix playing in Kansas City, as you know, playing there and having been a part of the organization, that's a tough sledding. And he did a wonderful job for what they were able to do. Unfortunately, they came up short. But what were your thoughts of him in that game?
Michael, I really like Bo Nix, and I think the arrow is trending and pointing up in the right direction with this kid. I think he's in the ideal situation. I think Sean knows how to coach that quarterback position. I think Sean sees the game through the eyes of the quarterback, and he's done a really good job, I think, helping him situationally. But the kid's impressive. He's played a lot of football. You know that. He was a 5-year starter in college. His dad was a high school coach. I think he's got a lot of the qualities and the intangibles that you love at that position. Physical and mental toughness. I think he's a guy that can process, a guy that's very intelligent, a guy that learns from his mistakes, a guy that can make plays with his legs, can create and extend plays. And that was look, they played well enough to win. I mean, it's a heartbreaker to go into Arrowhead to hold the Chiefs to less than 20 points and have a field goal to win the game. And you get it blocked. So on the other side of it, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I mean, they're 9-0. They're not playing great football. They're still playing good defensively, and they get a big play in the kicking game. That tells you a lot about the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
It's amazing. They just figure out a way. You get the special teams play, as you mentioned, Rich, because that's a chip shot, right? Lutz is going to make that thing. Broncos going to give them the first loss. Is this sustainable? I guess it is, right? For the Chiefs, they can just keep playing this. Every game's a one-score game.
They expect it, guys. You know, they've come from behind in 8 games this year. This is who they are right now. They expect it. They may get it fixed. They may get better as we get into January, but right now this is who they are. They've accepted it, and they're dealing with it, and they're getting the results.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. You look at all those one-score games, and they do it again with that 2-point win yesterday. Rich, always enjoy the conversations on a Monday breaking down the NFL. We can't wait to do it again next week.
You guys
Thanks,
are the best.
Rich.
Thanks.
Great stuff, as always, from our MVP, Rich Ganon here. Give him a follow on X, by the way, at RichGanon12, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Michael, we have a lot to get to, and we did have some blowouts that we're going to talk about and see if we can glean something from some of those results yesterday and beyond. Come on back. It's the Lombardi Line here on a Monday.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We continue the Veterans Day edition of the Lombardi Line here. Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi here with you. And you mentioned, Michael, off the top of the show, how bad the afternoon slate was. If you were watching, I was watching, you're like flipping around trying to find a game. You couldn't find a good one. I don't know where to begin. I think we'll start with the Jets. And you and I talked about it last week, Michael. Like, why is everybody betting the Jets? What are we missing on this Jets team and why they're getting bet up in the desert? And they just got absolutely shellacked, 31-6, non-competitive game, no offensive touchdowns. Kyler Murray could kind of do whatever he wanted out there, and James Conner didn't have a big yards game, but did have it with the receiving yards, 80 yards receiving, 33 rushing, so over 100 there. I don't want to say it's over, but, when you're sitting there at 3-7.
Oh, it's over.
It's
you
over.
Can say it's over.
It's over,
They're not
right?
any good.
Yeah.
They're not any good. I mean, look, Murray had 2 incomplete passes. All this talk about this being a dominating defense, that's all we heard about, right? They're dominating defense, okay? Well, maybe they would be if the guy didn't fire, the head coach who was a defensive guy. Now they put Jeff Albrecht has to be the defense coordinator and the head coach, which clearly isn't working. But the reality of it is the offense is broken. They make a trade for Devontae Adams, and we said when Devontae was at the Raiders, he wasn't the same player he once was. So they bring him in. He's got 13 targets. That's great. We're throwing him the ball all the time, and he averaged 5.2 per catch. You say, well, where was Garrett Wilson? Well, they took him away. He averaged 8.2 a catch. They can't throw the ball down the field. They can't throw the ball down the field at all. And so that's the bigger issue, is they have no explosive passing game, and it comes back to Aaron Rodgers. He's just not the same player. This is exactly who Aaron Rodgers was his last year in Green Bay. Maybe not even as good as that. I mean, it's hard to accept. I get that. We have a hard time saying goodbye to great players. Mm-hmm. We do. But one of the reasons why Phil Jackson didn't want to coach Kobe Bryant at the end of his career, because he didn't want to be the guy to tell him you can't play anymore.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do. And Rodgers has had this wonderful career, but, going to the Jets to save their franchise, now they're in the deepest hole you could be in. They're in the deepest hole you could possibly be in. Because, is he going to come back and play next year? Do you want him? Do you even want him to come back? There has to be a radical cleansing of this organization. Will Woody Johnson go back into the Trump cabinet like he did and then acquiesce to the control of the team to someone else? Because all he's done is mess up the team. Remember, thinking's overrated, right? And obviously that's not the case. But this Jet team is, to me, beyond bizarre. They're just not good enough. They really aren't. And Arizona, give them credit. They dominated this game from the first quarter. And remember, this line moved, I think it moved to where the Jets closed -3 or -2, right?
Oh, yeah. The Jets opened up as dogs on the road, getting a couple points. They closed as high as some places 2.5 here. So you're seeing 4.5 point line moves. It's something you brought up on the show, Michael, I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, actually, where you said courage of your convictions of what you see, right? And look, we're not saying we want to interpret the line move and understand why do we think this is moving, but I think you and I were scratching our head about it, and the courage of your convictions was this was all Arizona, and there was never really a question about it.
Well, there's sometimes the line movement works, right? So like that Detroit game, the line movement was moving toward, people were betting Detroit. I get that, right? That closed at 4.5, someone told me. Whereas like the Charger game, when I did Russo on Friday, I took the Chargers. The line was at 7 on Friday. It closed, I think, at 8.5.
Right.
That line movement, you could see it. But I think, to me, why is the line movement when the Cardinals are playing really good and the Jets haven't played well? I know they beat Houston coming off the 10-day rest, but they didn't look good when they beat Houston. I mean, I don't think they did.
No.
So, and Rodgers goes back there. He's sacked 3 times. They lose Tyron Smith at left tackle. Now the injuries are going to take hold. Mike Williams catches a touchdown pass for the Steelers. He couldn't do anything for the Jets. There's a concern there, right? A guy goes somewhere else and gets behind the defense when he couldn't get behind the defense for you. I mean, I think the Jets are broken. And anybody who's dumb enough to play them next week, what are they? They're 3-point favorites against the Colts?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I just don't know how you lay
are
points.
you kidding me? I mean, how is that even possible?
I don't know how you lay points. Again, you got to trust what your eyes are seeing a little bit, America, and really watch these games. If you are, like Michael is, you can understand why the trepidation would be there to lay points with the Jets next weekend. You mentioned it last week with the Eagles. You said if you like the Eagles, you should bet it now. It did get up over that touchdown. Never in jeopardy. After Ezekiel Elliott fumbled with the Cowboys going in, potentially to take the lead before the half, then it was all fly, Eagles fly the rest of the way. They roll 34-6. Very quickly, it feels like a done year, 3-6 now for the Cowboys. We'll find out officially. You and I talked about it with Dak, with the hamstring off the bone. Once we heard that noise last week, we said this feels like it's over. Should be made official today. Jerry Jones, though, is not exactly ready to give up on the season. I want you to hear from Jerry and get your thoughts.
I don't even understand not having hope. Now, we've got, 8 more ball games? If you'll help me with my arithmetic here, since I can't do some other things right. So, bottom line is that we've got 8 ball games. That used to be 80% of a college season. That's a lot of football left. We've got a lot to work on that we can do better.
We got a lot of bad football left is what Jerry should have put in there. I mean, Ed Werner in the background shaking his head. He's not buying it because, of course, Ed Werner's heard it before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's heard it too many times. I mean, Jerry can sell. Jerry's a salesman, let's face it. And where are they going to score points? Again, we opened the show talking about if Cooper Rush is their best option, how bad is Trey Lance? This is the guy that was, the third pick overall in the draft?
Third pick by the Niners with that brain trust.
Right. So to me and Cooper Rush that game, it was a perfect in-game betting because as you watched the first quarter, you said to yourself, there's no way Dallas can score. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no way. They got the ball on the 3-yard line, first and goal at the 3, and they couldn't get it in. That was after Zach fumbled it going into the end zone. I mean, here's the thing that you got to look at when you're playing a quarterback like Cooper Rush. There'll be one drive where they'll move the ball. Will Levis did it yesterday. There's one drive he moves the ball, 70-yard touchdown pass. But when bad offenses have to put 2 or 3 drives together, they can't do it. Something breaks down. A hold here, false start, get behind the change. There's just not enough. I don't want to say there's not enough offense. There's just not enough flexibility within the scheme. And I think ultimately that's the biggest challenge that you get into. And it's really a problem. I don't know how the Cowboys, they're at Houston. The Cowboys haven't won a home game all year. You realize this, right?
0-4. They're getting blown out at home, too, Mike. I mean, it's non-competitive games after non-competitive games.
No, I mean, and they're not, there's nothing that they can lean on that without Dak. I mean, there's no strength. They can't run the ball, right? They can't run the ball. They have a hard time stopping the run. And Zimmer calls the perfect blitz. The guy misses the tackle. Next thing you know, you're just not good enough. And I said it last year. Nobody listened. This team overachieved last year. It didn't underachieve. This is not an overly talented roster. And the expectations, everybody was betting them on the under. I kept giving out the under. It was, to me, they were never going to get back to where they were last year because they can't play in front.
I could not agree more. And again, the thing, on this Veterans Day that drives me the most crazy is the surrender in the second half. You just quit. You can't quit. I got to see guys that want to play football and see if there's anything there because it looks like Michael.
They know now Mike is the interim coach.
Right.
Mike doesn't have a contract, right? They know Jerry. Now, what Jerry was trying to do at that press conference was basically trying to keep the players engaged. Right, basically by saying, I own the team and I'm watching you. And if you want to give up, that'll affect what I do moving forward. That's what he was really saying, subliminally to the thing, but giving up hope. I mean, he sits in his room with Steve, and they know that they're not going to win it. They're going to have a hard time beating anybody. They'll have a hard time beating Carolina. Losing to Carolina is bad. I mean, like yesterday when I watched Carolina, they're bad. And the Giants just played down to their level.
And the Panthers have as many wins as the Cowboys. They both have 3 wins. That's where the Cowboys are.
It's unbelievable.
Oh. By the way,
it's unbelievable.
It really is when you look at it in that context. Like, holy mac, that's where the Cowboys are. By the way, my team, your team, America's team, not good. If you're not a VSiN Pro subscriber yet, you need to be a VSiN Pro subscriber. Daily best bets, leaderboard showing you who's got the hot hand here at the network. 19 hours live programming. We've got exclusive betting splits, trends, and analysis. It's going to make you a better. That's for sure. So start off your VSiN Pro subscription today. Little as $9.99. See everything VSiN has to help up your betting game. Sign up VSiN.com/subscribe, VSIN.com/subscribe. The Bills, I'd say quietly, very quickly, blew out the Colts yesterday, 30-20. Backdoor touchdown there from Flacco made it look better. But, Michael, have-nots, right? Colts are a have-not, Bills are a have.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts just are not good enough. I mean, that's the most painful watch. watch the Colts. And then, look, here's what I'm going to say this again. I think Shane Steichen's a really good offensive coach. I don't think he's a head coach. He has not grown into a head coach at all. He hasn't. I mean, his decision-making on fourth down is atrocious, and he doesn't know how to fix the defense. And there's nothing about him that makes me believe he's a good head coach. He's a good offensive coordinator, but usually, when you're a good head coach, you see the difference right away. He's not. He's an offensive coordinator.
I love that, by the way. And people think that's a slight. It shows you some people are really good as coordinators. They're not cut out to be head coaches. And I think, Michael, you're identifying that in Indianapolis. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Carl Johnson is going to join us from Beau Rivage as well. Come on back. It's the Lombardi Line.
Sports bettors, this is your chance. VSiN is bringing you an unbeatable deal. Get a VSiN